So this is common, sometimes called Great Mullein. Big, huge, fuzzy leaves, these yellow flower stalks. This is a biennial, only lives 2 years. It was introduced from Europe. It's common in Europe and in Asia, and even Northern Africa, but now it's been found in Australia. It's very common in North America, so it's really made the rounds. But it's never really an invasive plant, probably partially because these seeds that come out, even though they can stay in the soil, in what they call the seed bank, for years, if they're not exposed to open area, bare ground, basically, they don't germinate. So it's not a big agricultural pest. It's not a big threat in places once plants start to get established. Got lots of history behind this thing. Again, mullein it only lives 2 years. It's been used in a lot of different ways. In Europe, these stems are actually really stout and strong, especially once they dry. They used to dip them in tallow and be impromptu torches. The flower itself, as you can see, this yellow flowers, these were used to make a dye, a yellow dye. Also, there's some kind of mucky stuff in there that they've been used for treating colds and so forth. So it's been used medicinally for treating colds and whatnot. The leaves have been used for bandaging and have some antibacterial properties. During the Civil War, the big leaves, and again, I can't find a 1-year plant over here. When it first comes out, here's one, okay? So when it first comes out, the first year, all it does is basically just form a big, huge rosette. This might actually be a 2nd-year plant that got cut, but a big, huge rosette. So lots of big leaves, and then the 2nd year, it sends up this big stalk. Those big leaves, especially in the bottom, and again, these things are pretty massive, as you can see. They're very soft, and so they were used for a variety of different things, including padding during the Civil War. You gotta remember, especially Confederate soldiers were very short. Not even half the troops had shoes after the first couple of years. And so they pad their clothing and their shoes with lots of stuff, and this was a great thing to use. The fuzzy hairs on here, by the way, make it very soft. And another name for it is actually Quaker's Rouge. And Quaker's Rouge because sometimes the saying was that you could rub your face with this. It brings out a blush, but it's not harmful. It doesn't really scratch or anything. And thus you weren't wearing makeup, but you get a blush out of it. A neat little plant. The hairs, by the way, make this also an excellent tinder plant. It burns fantastically. Sometimes the leaves used to be rolled and made into tinder and even into candles. So tons of things about this plant. It's cold use, whatever. Its history. Now a little bit more about the plant itself. Since it's a biennial, it only lives 2 years, and so it'll come through there. And if it usually opens in the morning, if it gets pollinated, then fine, that's fine. But since it only has 2 years, if it doesn't get pollinated, that's a big problem. So what it ends up doing is that it can self-pollinate. So if these little flowers are not approached by any pollinator, they will close up and self-pollinate. So you guarantee that you get some kind of seeds for the next year or for whenever there's bare ground, even if it's not, even if it's not the best